I thought we were doing what are we doing right now?
As I thought we were all getting bangs. The discussion had been we were all getting bangs. My cat just knocked over her picture. I thought we were all getting bangs.
Yeah, what were we doing?
We're podcasting.
Hey, let's fucking go. Welcome to VaultCrashers, a show dedicated to kicking down the vault door to help you find something you'll fall in love with. Our mission, our creed, our code is this: to share our passion for Vault comics in a way that makes them approachable and accessible to everyone. We want you to find a comic book or graphic novel you'll fall in love with. My name is Nikki, pronouns they, them.
My name is Adair, pronouns she, her.
And my name is Dan, my pronouns are he, him.
And this month we are discussing mindset. So Dan, what is mindset all about?
Mindset is... I'm going into this cold. Mindset is I don't know if I can pinpoint the genre, but it is a book about tech bros who went to an Ivy League school where they're all senior year about to graduate. And one of them finds the formula to mind control. And they put it into their app and they decide they are the ones who will be controlling people and what they do for a good cause. As mind control typically does, it spirals out of control. And you find out that you can rely on no one, not even yourself. I think that was pretty good.
That works, yeah.
I didn't want to give away the whole thing because I think there's a central premise that sort of skews and curls through it that
Much
I didn't
like
want to
the
give
art.
away. Yeah. The art is unfucking believable.
I know.
So before
It's
we
just also good.
really get into what mindset is all about, I actually think the creators, they had a lot to say about it. Adair and I interviewed them. Adair, anything to say about this interview?
There were two Zack Kaplans. That is all. Yes. We are here with the creators of Mindset, writer Zack Kaplan and artist John J. Pearson. Zack is the mind behind Forever Forward, Metal Society, and Breakout. John has brought his artistic skills to stories such as Blue and Green, The Department of Truth, and the short stories A Dream of Time and Learn to Swim.
And Mindset is a visually rich trip that is worth multiple rereads. Like, keep going back to it. Every time I read it, I notice more visual details and it lends more and more depth. And absolutely, this is what makes it probably one of my favorite releases of 2022. But before we gush and jump into the comic, we really have to ask the most important question.
What is your favorite sandwich?
What is your favorite sandwich? Is the most important. The most important.
The most important.
The most important one. Yeah. It's the only question, actually. That's it. And then
that's it. This is what the podcast is about.
John, do you want to go first? Oh, okay, I'll go first. It's a cheese and pickle sandwich. Is that an English thing? I don't even know. Like,
I've never heard it, but I'm sure.
Okay, right. So
that's definitely new.
I all of the looks of your face.
Is it like a pickle or is it like a cornichon?
I know, like I need more explanation.
Is it little pickles or like big pickles? Like cornichon pickles?
Oh, okay. So it's not pickles like that you have. So it's like a single Branston pickle, which is basically kind of chopped up bits of kind of veg in like this brown, spicy, almost barbecue sauce. It's delicious.
It has barbecue sauce. It has barbecue sauce.
No, it's not barbecue sauce. Like that's probably a really terrible comparison. But like
sort of
for the sake of this, I'm like, how do I explain what this is?
Like a sweet marinade-y type. Sauce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. So yeah, that with like a nice like mature cheddar on some brown sliced bread.
Only the finest. I will say, I go back and forth. I mean, I really just like a good standard turkey sandwich with some good bread, but I'm gonna go with actually a corned beef sandwich. I feel like it's very hard to get good corned beef. You got to be in the right city. You got to go to the right deli. So being able to find some lean corned beef that's really good in LA or New York or some other pocket around the country or world, that's tasty. So I'm gonna say corned beef sandwich.
That's also one of my favorites.
I feel like I've answered this question before and answered differently. So,
well, you're allowed to grow. You're allowed to change.
You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change your mind.
This is why we ask the question. It sometimes changes.
I feel like in LA as well, you're sport of choice for sandwiches. So I'm sure it'll change day to day. You'd be like, oh God, this is amazing.
Yeah, there's some. I feel like though a sandwich actually is not about the contents; it's about the bread. That's my big takeaway. Like you find really solid bread that's like crispy but soft, and like the good mix of like covering the sandwich, not overwhelming the sandwich. I feel like the bread is really something that's taken for granted.
Okay, so let's talk about mindset. It's been such a collaboration between the writer, the artist, and the letterer, Hassan Ostmane-Elhaou. And I have to say that visually, just all of you together really blew me away. It's one of the reasons why I recommend reading this comic multiple times. But what is the collaboration like between you, Zack, you, John, and Hassan?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely incredibly collaborative. I mean, the process was more deconstructed and kind of back and forth than any process I've done. I've done 8 comics up to now. And so I think it really stemmed from, writing an idea that deals with mind control. I knew there was a chance to do something really subjective and really play around with what we were seeing and kind of peel back the layers and use the art in kind of a more elevated way to kind of convey more. And that was one of the things that actually even first drew me to John's art that, brought us together. Was I could see that his work had those layers, that texture, that nuance that would really, bring the story to life. And then I think from the get-go, we were on the same page about, our goals narratively and visually. And we just geeked out at every turn about how we could enhance this and how we could enhance that. I mean, he would build off of what I was doing in the script, and then that would in turn make me change the very the way I was writing the scripts and the devices and how I was approaching it. I mean, it got so collaborative that by the end, before I would even script something, we would connect, and I would say, hey, here's the shape of issue 4, issue 5 narratively, and get his input visually so that I was writing on behalf of that. So all of it was very back and forth, and Hassan the same. I mean, there are pages where Hassan is adding art essentially to it. It's not just letters. He's adding visual art, and it's going back and forth. So I mean, it was really I mean, there was no top and bottom to the creativity, John, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, like I always like to kind of have quite an involved dialogue with whoever I'm working with. So with me and Zack, it was kind of perfect. It started off that way. Then, like Zack was saying, is as we progressed through the series, and we got more used to each of our own individual styles and how we work together, it just kind of meshed and became something that is incredibly fluid. So because mindset deals with a lot of nuances and a lot of ideas and a lot of subjectivity, the whole approach for me for the art was something where you could read it simultaneously with what the dialogue is saying, but then at times it will be completely different, and it's this weird dance that they do with each other, what you're reading, what you're seeing. So in terms of collaboration, it was essential that we worked closely, and it was also fun. Like Zack said, we'd just have a chat about each issue, go over everything. I'd have ideas for different scenes of how the artwork could be approached. And then, yeah, as it developed more, Zack would come to me saying, oh, I think it'd be really interesting to do this with the artwork, which is amazing. Like, I absolutely love that. And then with Hass, he's absolutely sensational. He's really interested in making something that is sympathetic to the artwork. And with my approach, because it is subjective, verging into like sketchy, weird, like fluid stuff, he wanted to come up with something where it wasn't going to be abrasive when you were reading it, with the lettering. And yeah, he worked endlessly. He worked too much on it, to be fair. I worry for him and the amount of effort that he puts in. But it's things like the mindset, kind of like the signal thing. So he did all of that. Like that wasn't me, and that is the artwork.
That right, yeah.
So he kind of went in and put all that in afterwards, and yeah, I've said it before. He's basically the second artist on it when it comes to it. But yeah, the collaboration was just sensational. And it's weird because we said before this that I've not spoke to Zack for a while until this point. And I was saying to my partner earlier, I was saying to Lenny, I was like, oh, I missed chatting to Zack. It's weird. Like Serious End is like, oh, I've not spoken to him in ages. So I think that's testament to the collaboration. It's
the
like
friendship is real then. It's not just for show. It's not a social media ploy, right? So we aren't invested.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, really great. I mean, also, I mean, not to give too much away to the story, but I mean, there's some really incredible twists that take place. So then when you go back and read it again, you can read it and see a different kind of story that's underneath the first read. And so, and it's dealing with mind control. Like, obviously, there's some characters in the story that are unreliable and that are dealing with mind control. So that requires a lot of moments where the dialogue and the story are actually disconnected from the art, and then there are other moments where they're connected so intrinsically. So it just required a lot of collaboration and a lot of back and forth to get it right. And so yeah, we had a great time. Really, yeah,
because it was interesting because we obviously knew the arc of the story right from the get-go. So in that first issue, there's very intentional pieces of artwork in there that foreshadow the entire storyline and all the twists and turns. But as we were progressing and doing things, there were parts where it would be quite spontaneous between the two of us through our conversation and the collaboration, where we'd say, oh, if we do this, then this is a real nice callback to something else that's happened, or this builds on the intentions of the character development through a subtle hint in the artwork. And all of that was it was spontaneous. It was kind of born from the both of us, and that's just not always possible without a close level of collaboration.
Yeah,
there was a moment at New York Comic-Con. That was fun, right? We were kibitzing and just hanging out and I can't remember. I was talking to Chris Condon, who was behind us, about art and comics, and just about how turning a page upside down could flip the whole perspective. And I was half joking, and I turned to John and said, like, we should turn a page upside down, like. And then it was like we were working on a moment in issue 5 where a reveal is made and the whole kind of story gets flipped upside down, and it was like, oh my god, we should do it for this one. And so and sure enough, like, the page kind of has a duality to it and can be looked at both ways. And so a lot of the ideas came from spontaneous brainstorms or ideas like that, but I think it worked because we knew at all times the core premise, the themes, what we were trying to say. We were, I think, spent so much time talking about the character and his arc and what he's going through. And so every time we would get to have a conversation about what a visual was going to be or what the art was going to look like, it was all rooted in the story engines that we had, gone over with a fine-tooth comb. So things would come up spontaneously.
I love that moment with Chris when it was just conversational, and then we were just kind of laughing and joking, and then it was like, oh, actually, no, let's do it. And I don't think he believed us. I think he still thought we were joking, and then I sent him a picture of it, and it's like, what the hell? Yeah,
I love that. I also love doing the rereads and seeing these little Easter eggs and little lines that's just like, wow, I would like to think that I could have predicted this, but it was right in front of me. I just didn't really realize it based on just wanting to be part of the story as it was going on. But on that note, there's just a great deal of symbolism in the visual detail and also in just the lines. And it all creates just this really very funky, cool, like absurd mindset world, and it really sets the tone for each scene. And we were just curious, are there any panels that you just that really stick out to you with that?
I mean, there's a lot for me. I mean, like, I think there's so many. I think like some of the main ones are some of the ones in the first issue for me, I think, because that was it was establishing the whole story. So I think some of those are the ones that still resonate most with me. And it was setting up a lot of the foreshadowing, and a lot of the stuff that follows that will be building on it or coming back from it. I think that first double page spread where there's the fight and then it's the kind of the breaking out of the border. That's one of the most important ones, I think, for me, because that's setting the tone from page like 3. That what we're trying to do here is something that is quite literally trying to kind of break formalities and take the reader outside of the conventions and the expectations they might have. And then that sets up something that is really in your face and like over the top to the point where it's verging on ridiculous. But then that's used to make where things are outside of borders in a much more subtle sense hopefully resonate more. So later on, there's ones where Ben, the main character's kind of he's outside of the panel borders looking in at a party, or there's lots of situations where he will be outside of the panels for the main story. And that first shot where it is Winfield being smashed out of the panel border sets that up for the entire series. So there's lots of really small moments like that where it's intentionally put in and intentionally over the top, but hopefully to resonate and then set up the rest of the subtleties that are used in the storytelling. And also, I think, like, from a purely visual sense, that second double page spread where Winfield's falling off the boat is one of my favorites as well.
I would say too the one after that, where Ben's at the job fair at his university for the first time and he's talking.
Oh, yeah.
But his face is close up in the middle of this double page, and then he's surrounded by environment. That I think John added that. I don't think the script was just them walk through. I had written that it was a DeLuca effect of these guys walking through the job fair, but John put him big front and center, and that was a visual motif that we came back to again and again. I think almost every issue has something where Ben is front and center in the middle of a double page spread, and it gives you this real sense of, angst and urgency, and kind of like there he is stuck in the middle, just feeling completely lost in your face. And I, it was just, that was a really cool motif that we discovered. In terms of other, I don't know about panel alone, but one layout that I absolutely loved seeing come together was the loop layout. In issue 4, they realized that they can actually use mind control to loop someone again and again by putting the mind control on their phone, and then basically just having the person come back and check their phone over and over again. And they demonstrate this visually in 6 kind of like pizza triangle panels that go in a loop, and so you don't know where the page starts or ends. And it was I think it was just a crazy idea that John just pulled together so cool. And it's just brilliant layout. And that, when a layout like that and the panel structure just enhances the very message of that moment. So I mean, there were a lot. I love sometimes the interwoven close-ups. There's one where the 4 guys are getting ready to break into Winfield's house in issue 4, and I think their faces are all kind of fusing together. and that motif happens at the end of issue 6 with the big confrontation with Ben and Aton. So yeah, there were so many kind of artistic devices that just enhanced a moment in like you say, a funky kind of way, and in a definitely pushing the boundaries of the medium, but not so much that it. That's the thing I really appreciated about the process and kind of what we landed with. It's so creative, I think, but not so avant-garde that it's off-putting. Like, it all felt like it was enhancing the story, despite all these like daring ways we were literally breaking panels or fusing faces together. It felt like it was all easily digestible in those moments. So yeah,
that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think when you think about experimental comics in mainstream American kind of publishing, like, they're not really that experimental in the grand scheme of comics. Like, if you look at kind of anything that's independent, then it's completely like there's no limits to it. But I think for a mainstream audience, there are certain limitations that you have to work within, and there's certain boundaries and frameworks that you have to push against. Otherwise, I think the audience, like a genre audience, or people who buy comics from places like Vault, they're just not. They're going to be confused and not really interested in it. So there are expectations you have to work with. So I find that interesting, because I would happily do something that just makes no visual sense when you look at it. It's like, what the hell is this? But like, obviously, like, nobody's going to buy a comic like that really from outside of a small audience. So I think, yeah, with us, it's experimental to a point, and we're thinking about the metaphors, and we're thinking about the storytelling, but we're also thinking about the engagement and the hook of it. So at the core of that, we have the fantastic story that Zack's come up with, and then it's playing with that to a certain degree that will make it resonate, but it won't alienate an audience. So yeah, so some of the visual motifs and the imagery that we're coming up with, it was is there to be intriguing, but not too just insane, I suppose. You can push it to a point, but
I'll cite another marriage between narrative and art in this kind of way. I think early on, I kind of had this idea that we were going to use reflection as much as possible, because Ben is going through a soul-searching experience and kind of questioning who he wants to be during this journey. So we wanted opportunities to have him literally looking at his own reflection. And so anytime there was a moment where he's engaging with glass, or especially engaging with water, that was a chance where, even when I was scripting, I was thinking this is an opportunity to do something visually interesting. The first time I saw it, though, come to life was the swimming pool scene in issue 1, where he's on the diving board. And I think I'd written that he's looking down there. I mean, the dialogue is verbose as he's, in his head talking about his perspective on the world. But John found this really amazing way to marry two different panels together through the water. And the water, it's just a stunning artistic display, and the water's kind of coming together, and it's pink and vibrant, and it has a life of its own. And I think from that moment on, it was, oh, we got to use water and kind of play with the boundaries of not only water, but how water is on the page, and how it can lead us into another panel entirely. And we do that several times. When Ben's in jail, we do it. And a couple other places where water suddenly became this ongoing motif, and we're looking to reflect the characters as much as possible. Aton and Ben are at a restaurant together. There's a glass, and they're reflected in the very ice cube and the glass, the drink. So it was really, awesome to kind of come up with these story ideas and story engines that were built in, and then to collaborate in such a way that they came to life and just created cool motifs in the story.
So do you feel that Ben Sharp's the protagonist of Mindset is his greater need to prove that he can influence others, or that he can actually influence himself?
Which is he driven to do more to influence others or influence himself? I mean, he is having definitely an existential moment through the course of this story. I actually think that those are the same engine inherently. I think that his desire to influence himself is because he is having a hard time influencing others, and inherently he is dissatisfied with his where he's at in his life, and so he does not feel connected to his peers and connected to society. He's living in he's been raised in a social media era, and he's living in it, and everything is gamified. Everything is about people posting and sharing how wonderful their lives are and how awful he feels his life is and how he's a nobody. And he hates them for it, but he longs to be part of it, which is, I think, something that we can all relate to, no matter what group we're drawn to. We feel that we hate them for having everything that we want, and we don't want it, but we want it, and we want ourselves to not want it. And then that's why we download the meditation app to help ourselves cope with the very thing that's causing the problems. So I think it's all very like loop. I think though that he also kind of wants to be influenced too. He is uncomfortable with the idea of being an influencer because he fears that if he truly embraces his relentless, raw need to just influence people and not care what they think, that he'll be a bad person. And to manipulate somebody, to use someone so that you can be the influencer and they're the influencee, that is also an inherently toxic relationship. And so he doesn't know how to win. And there are these different people in the story, whether it's the love interest, Atlanta Hannah, or his partner, Aton, who seem to have different eases and perspectives on the pros and cons of influencing people, and you should care, you shouldn't care. But yeah, it's kind of it's a really obviously topical subject, and I think he's even more than torn between should I influence others or should I influence myself. I think it's should I influence, am I more comfortable being an influencer or an influencee, I think is kind of an equally inherent struggle that he goes through. I don't know, John, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's, the whole thing is essentially kind of like, you've got like the main kind of driven narrative, but if we're thinking about Ben as himself, it's that Mindset's just a character study about Ben, but through that, it's kind of a reflection on the reader as well. And I don't think there's kind of one answer about that. It's the whole idea of the dualities that we're exploring through the series. It's you. I think we're all kind of, if we ask ourselves that question, it's like I obviously want to have influence on people, and I want to have kind of influence on myself as well. But it's never one or the other, and I think they exist kind of in unison. So I think with Ben, it's taking that idea of the balance between those ideas and kind of pushing it to the extreme. And what if you want these things so badly that you can't quite control them, but you're giving a means to potentially control them? What is the outcome of that? So yeah, it's there's no kind of one solid answer for that, but I think that it's more about kind of presenting that the question you've just asked us to the reader as well. So yeah, I think for me it's more about that duality, and it's more about the presentation of the question rather than providing an answer necessarily in terms of the character. So yeah,
I think the other thing too is a lot of times you'll see stories or read stories where the choice is clear. You have a character that's doing one thing that's really bad and one thing that's really good, and you kind of go, you should definitely be that person and not that person. This is a bad version and this is a good version. But what's funny is in this one, when Ben is idolizing his peers and saying, I just, I hate them, but I want to be a part of them, you want to tell them to like, hey, stop feeling sorry for yourself, buck up and like take some control of your life already. Like you're letting this whole engine control you. Like you're a little pathetic. Like stop being so neurotic, stop being stuck in this loop. Then in turn, when he becomes super successful and is suddenly in the spotlight and he's living it up, you almost feel equally upset with him for that. Like, how can you be,
how dare you?
How dare
Yeah.
you?
The audacity of you succeeding when I was rooting for you.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I felt for you when you were struggling, but now you've actually bucked up and found some luck, and now you're on the top. How dare you do this? So like, no choice is really right. There's a dark side to being at the top and being an influencer, and there's a dark side to just being someone who's succumbing to clickbait. And neither of them are really healthy places to be. I mean, I think the true healthy place is being able to find the peace and be free from the control of the entire technology. But we can't be free because it is so baked into our lives. That's the paradox. So I think that what we had a lot of fun doing is kind of looking at the dark sides of each of Ben's lanes that he finds himself in, and there is really no right or wrong. I think it's also, that's one of the things that I love about this comic, that it's kind of subjective in its experience. I think you could have two people read it and one person say, I really think that Ben should have been this way, and another person say, well, I think that was an awful way, I think you should have been this way. And it's kind of open to interpretation about what you think our response should be about social media and influence in technology.
Definitely. Also, thank you, Zach, because you created a story that made me stop looking at my phone at night. So been trying to do that for a while because I read it was really bad for your sleep. Yeah, I mean, I don't do it. I sleep great now, like at night. It's really true. Like you really shouldn't look at your phone at night. But
you stop looking at your phone right before you go to bed?
Oh, I used to, like, and now I put it down like about 2 hours prior, and yeah, I'm done with it for the night.
Yeah.
Well done. That is very hard to do.
And it's an interesting thing. I feel like we grew up in a uniquely specific time where I think I mean, assuming we're kind of all of that age where I didn't have a cell phone growing up. Like I didn't have technology. I had a phone with internet once I was out of college. And so for me, I really loved that freedom of not being tethered to something. And I remember I held off for a really long time because I thought once I have a phone that I have like internet capacity, I will always use it. I know I don't need it, but I will use it. And so I think that for me, I have always kind of been against the fact that I became very enslaved to my phone. The access to everyone, and as everyone moved apart, and especially during COVID, I feel like I developed really unhealthy habits. So I feel like Mindset was a really great story to come out. Obviously, yeah, like because I think we all did develop some we needed to have any sort of social engagement for several years. We became very dependent on our technology, and I think that there's an element now where we have to almost like become sober from our phones, and so I definitely noticed these bad habits that were picking up and like really negative sleep patterns. And so reading Mindset, though, I was just like, it was similar to like how a lot of people started putting tape on their computer cameras once they watched that Snowden movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I feel like it had a similar pull to me of like, I don't want to be on my phone for the last few hours of the day. Like, I'm going to do my best not to.
I feel like we're only scratching the surface of this epiphany that people are slowly having. It's kind of like similar to the epiphany of sugar or cigarettes back in the day, of kind of going, this trend has taken such a pervasive place in our society and we're all doing it. And only now are we starting to say, wait a minute, I don't talk to the person I'm going to sleep with. I'm just focused on my phone. This is weird. Like, this is not normal. Like, or you're scrolling in the middle of your day. You just stop doing whatever you're doing. You don't even know why or how you're scrolling, and you're just scrolling for 20 minutes. And you kind of go, what am I looking at here. So it's really fascinating how we become so trained by these devices and these habits. And yeah, I'm so happy to hear that the story has actually provoked someone to put down their phones. That's the best compliment.
Guys, thank you so much for willingly choosing to join us today. There was no mind control in this interview.
None at all, no.
We also have no formal goodbye process. It's just chaos. So we in general just we stop recording at some point, and
The only way this loop ends is if I hit stop recording. I'm gonna hit stop recording on that note. We love chaos, and thank you so much for being here. So what did y'all think of that interview?
I think it was cool. I liked that one kid that had bangs. No.
I only saw Pearson for like a minute at New York. He's a great beard.
Oh my god, his beard is just top tier.
He's got a great beard. He's a great artist, Eisner Award winner, whatever. Great beard. And they don't give awards out for that at the Eisners, which is bullshit.
I'm gonna give him an award right now. Like
best beard.
Best beard.
John J. Pearson.
John J. Pearson. Anyway, aren't we drinking? Are we drinking anything?
Yeah, Dan, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking water, I'll be honest with you. I didn't feel like drinking. I drank last night for the Super Bowl. And I had quite a few. And this morning I woke up with a headache and I was like, oh, that's new. Never had that before. So I was like, I don't know if I should continue this. So I'm drinking water right now. We'll see where it goes.
Well, since Dan didn't do the thing and our bit is dead, I'm drinking what? Did Dan did Dan know about the bit? Did we ever tell him what we were doing?
No,
or did we just decide to fuck with them? Okay. Well then fine. He'll never know what our bit was. It was funny. But I'm drinking an IPA because tech bros love a good IPA from a local brewery, obviously. I'm drinking one from Optimism Brewing because you got to be, oh God, I hate when I do this. It doesn't work.
I actually like I love when people have to like hold it up and like you can't see it. So you got to fuck with it.
It's like,
I like
and now it disappears. And now, woo.
It's very makeup influencer. Like, oh my God, I got to like put my hand against the thing.
Say
so
to
you
the
can
person
see the
who
mascara.
doesn't wear makeup. It says piney, old school, woodsy. Not, it's a solid, it's a Moxie Pacific Northwest IPA. It's cool. I am drinking it from a cup with a mustache on it.
Nope.
Let's
there it is. There it is.
I believe it. I see it. Okay. I'm drinking, you know what? This would have been like Miller High Life from a champagne flute.
Yeah, we were both going to be like, I'm drinking Miller High Life. And then be like, Dan, did you mind control us?
We were going to, a whole bit. And then that didn't
who?
happen, but it's, maybe it's kombucha from a champagne. Cause like,
it's what?
Tech bros. Tech people.
Like California tech people, kombucha.
The booch.
Kombucha. Got it.
All right. So
I do have a kombucha tech industry story.
Oh, so perfect. Let's do this.
Great segue
for mindset. So I still work in the tech industry in a much better space now than I did for a long time. So underneath our office, every morning we would just leave and go get like breakfast at this grocery store. And one day, me and my coworker are standing there looking at all the drinks, and typically I would just grab like a juice or something, and I'm looking at the kombucha that day, and I'm 6'2", so I just need you to know that because the man who came up behind me and tapped me on my shoulder was a full foot taller than me. I turned around and he started rubbing my belly, and then he started rubbing his belly, and he goes, "You want to get that blueberry kombucha? It's gonna make your belly feel real good." And I was like, "What?" And he's just rubbing his belly, rubbing mine. He goes, "It's going to make your gut feel really good. It's really good for your gut health." And I was like, what is happening? He picks up the kombucha, put it in my hand. He's like, "You're going to buy that." I did end up buying it. It was pretty good, actually. It didn't make me feel better, but...
that is so fucking weird.
And that all the time. Something about me makes people just want to do those things, tell me things. It's a nightmare. That's why I don't like going outside anymore.
It's because of the kombucha.
I don't like going outside because of the people. But
Yeah, see, the energy I put out brings in the weirdos.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mindset.
Have either of you worked in tech, like in general?
I have not.
Adamantly steered away from that living in Seattle.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you probably run into these people if you live in Seattle.
All the time. Every man that has ever hit at me at a bar in Seattle. Yeah, so I'm a programmer at Amazon. Cool.
Oh, was Amazon based out of Seattle? Okay.
Amazon and Microsoft are.
Yeah, I knew the Microsoft one.
And now we
I
have
didn't
Google
realize.
campus too. It's aces.
Great, even worse.
You look traumatized.
Dude, this is not the timer place. I'm not going on a tirade. That was last time. This is Adair 2.0. I'm streamlined. Better performance.
So I will go on a tirade against tech because this book caught me. Like the first issue, I was like, oh fuck, somebody gets it. Like this. So the tech industry has gotten itself this kind of facade. You see these cool campuses, you see these like beanbag chairs, offices where you drink. That kind of stuff is what the tech industry is known for. The tech industry is a manipulative, horrible place where they will pay you way below what you're worth for way more work than you ever need to do. The first issue of this book perfectly talks about that, into the second issue where they describe how they start their company. I was legally, I cannot say where I worked. It was horrible. The people were horrible, but seeing this is like, oh, it's not just one place; it's everywhere.
It was
Twitter. And you hear
he
these.
Worked at Twitter.
Oh God, no. Ugh. I mean, Twitter used to be not a horrible place to work. Google is a terrible place to work, and they will destroy your life if you ever post anything about them.
Noted.
But it was so interesting to me to see this tech thing, and then a lot of thematics revolve around control and things like that, which we can get to in a second. But I want to know what both of your favorite pages or / panels were from. We're doing the whole volume.
Yeah, because all 6 are out. The trade paperback is coming. That's why we're talking about it. So someone else go first because there is a dog barking.
I will go first. So my favorite panel page, it's the first issue. I think it's page 3 and 4. And what it is it's Winfield. And if you looked at the previous page, he's being knocked out of frame. And then what you see as somebody being knocked off a ship into the water, and there's the starlight and all of the stars in the sky. You have the water, which is infinite and vast, just like the sky. And then you have like all of these twinkling buildings. And then in the water, you also have this reflection. And something in the interview they talked about is the use of reflections. But the first time I read this book, I got to this page, like page 3, and I was like, I'm about to have an existential crisis, because for me, the sky and the ocean are like endless and limitless, and they're a great place to stare if you're just like, who am I and what do I want to be and where am I going in life? But for me, that was such a visually stunning page where what you see is, it feels like everybody is looking at the truth, and the narrator in that moment is still not telling the truth. So I don't think we gave a spoiler alert. The interview itself isn't very spoilery, but at this point there will probably be spoilers. I don't think I appreciated this page as much until I read all 6 issues and then came back to do a reread, because the answer to the question is in the first issue. So it was this page where it's just like, it feels like shadows are looking at you. It feels like the truth is staring at you, yet you're still lying to yourself. But all of the answers are out there in this like vast universe. So it really hit in a way that, like, visually it was gorgeous and amazing. And then I did my reread and I was like, no, it's really all here. In this first couple of pages, it's all here. It's all laid out for you. And it makes the entire story even more profound because of how they set up the art in this and how all of the creators work together to create a world where you as the reader even question your sanity. Like, what am I doing? And that can go beyond tech, that can go beyond anything. It just makes you just be like, what am I reading? And what is my purpose here? Like, what am I doing and how can I be better? So it was a bit of a mind fuck at that point. So that is definitely my favorite. I won't go into my other, like, I have a lot of other favorite panels, but for now, Adair, I want to hear about yours.
Yeah, I now can do that because the dog stopped barking. Not my dog, just gonna point out. My dog's not here. So I sort of chose to, I could honestly say all of issue 6, really any page from there. I'm just like, yeah, I just want to pull them all. But I chose two that really, what I liked was what they were an example of. And so if you have not read Mindset, which first off, why? But secondly, I feel like these are really good examples of what I loved about the series. And so the first one is in issue 2 and it's page 5, and it's a background of, it's basically the background of one of the main characters who I feel is kind of acts as a foil for Ben, named Eaton. Eaton. I think that's how
I was
Zack,
trying to figure it out too.
yeah,
I
Zack
think
pronounced it. Yeah, Eaton, I think is how it's pronounced, from what Zack said. Anywho, it's his background. And what I love about this page is it really shows the conversation between the creator, the writer, the artist, and the letterer. Like there, and I feel like there's several in that second issue specifically that really it is just such a marriage of those three creators in how they're doing things, because the lettering works with the story, and you also are getting a pretty full 3-dimensional background of a character that otherwise we probably wouldn't get, and it allows you to understand where they came from, what their trajectory is, and also the stakes for them. And I think that was such a really important thing. And also, as far as Mindset goes, it was one of the most realistic pages, in my opinion. Like, I feel like like it gets to a point where there's so much that's like, are we in the real world or are we in the Matrix as far as the art? And it's amazing, but it was one of those things that it felt very intense to me, that there weren't the frills that there are in so much, but it still maintained the theme, and it looked like it fit still. But it also felt like it was a little bit of like, with it being a flashback, with it being a background, it also felt like prior to the tech industry kind of bleeding into the pages. So I loved that. And I have a few pages like that, but that one was really big for me when I was rereading, knowing where that character goes. And then I honestly would say it's like Sophie's choice, choosing a favorite page on issue 6. But what I did choose was page 2. And it's really a flashback. And it's a really wonderful way that they, again, it's the marriage of the writer, the artist, the letterer. And it's really showing, and I think it's actually 2 consecutive pages, it's 2 and 3, I believe, that it gives you the full background of what is happening. Obviously, like, we can talk more about like what the big twist at the end of issue 5 is, but I feel like it basically, after you've just been shocked by this revelation at the end of issue 5, it gives you a little bit more context to what you were missing if you weren't like looking at the clues. So those are my 2 favorites. Dan, what about you?
Yeah. Before we get on to that, I do want to ask. So issue 6, I think issue 6 is where you see it the most. But throughout the series, there is the artist. Pearson's on a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. There are certain panels that are drawn without color that looks like they're still in. So line art, pencils, all that kind of stuff. It still feels like it's in the pencil. I was saying that loud because I needed to see what stage it was at. So they look like they're still in the pencil stage. so it hasn't had the inking, all the coloring and all that kind of stuff. For me personally, I saw that as the rawest form of what is happening. So when things happen, when the gunshots are going off, or when Josiah is hit by a bullet, you see those layers start to peel back, and at the end, it's just the pencils. What did you think of those panels? Like, what did you think symbolically, like what was going on there versus like the full color or the distorted use of the reflection of like the app itself?
I felt that was human. Like that was just like human nature and being human. That's really what I got from it. There were, I feel like there was some in like when he was talking about growing up as well, if I recall, there were also ones where I feel like it's before we are influenced almost like, and I feel like influence is really such a theme in this because by nature it is about influencing people. But I feel like it's before we're really, I don't want to say tainted, but yeah, tainted by technology, by the need to impress others, the need to be something we are not. I feel like it's the most human form of us, like what we are without needing to be anything beyond who we are in our heads.
I would agree with that. It feels so raw, and it's like here's the raw version of it. And I also think of stuff like that where it's like we also like to color in the truth, and like based on our own influence and perspective. So having like both of those things go on, and I think that's one of those things about this comic that's just like, holy fuck, this is what comics can be. Like just this marriage of like the art in it and the symbolism, where you have things totally stripped down to pencils, and it's like, what does that mean? Being able to ask a question where you're like, what does that mean to you? And you really start thinking about what is the human experience when you look at something, this character and the character development throughout Mindset, and what it means to see them like this versus fully colored in, and where have they been throughout this entire arc. So yeah.
It's something I like focused on as I was reading it, because you have the raw form, but then when I just forgot his name, when they
Ben?
Not the character who's
Aiton?
Etan, when he gets hit with the full wave of it, after you see everything splintered, like when he gets hit with the full like screen of Mindset, and it kind of like, you watch like his face is like splintered, and it's maybe the most realistic face in the book, that it looks like Pearson drew a real person. But then afterwards, it is like this distorted line that looks like it's shaking, where they fully can influence him in any way they want. That one has been sitting with me since I finished. But I chose a 2-page spread from issue 4, like page 15-ish, where it is Ben walking with his phone, and he's basically going through the truth that it doesn't matter. Yes, the world will influence us. We are molded by our parents and education, morally formed by our religion and culture, programmed to act in certain ways, blah, blah, blah. It's basically talking about how no matter what we believe, we have been controlled in one way or another. And I think that is a very interesting part of this book, because so much of media now is like, oh, you're controlled by your phones, you're controlled by social media, you're controlled. But it's not just that. You've been influenced by your parents. You've been influenced by the books you read. You've been influenced by art. Everything has some level of control over you and your personality, your existence, your identity, in one way or another. None of us is truly free of that, because we exist. No one exists in a vacuum. And it got to the part where it's just like, we crave to be influenced. The only question is, who do we let influence us? Technology or ourselves? And I started thinking about that, like, because you see people on Twitter who hate Twitter, who absolutely despise social media, but you're still there. Like, you're still in these spaces that you're complaining about. But the thing is, Twitter isn't controlling you. There's no hooks into your skin from your phone, technically. But you can control that platform. You can block people who you don't want to read. You can unfollow people you don't read, things like that, even though there are algorithms based at pushing shit into your view, into your mindset. But you have control over that to a certain point. So I think that is like something I just I feel like I've been dealing with that since there was a Zack Thompson book he did, I Breathe the Body. It's called I Breathe the Body. It is from Aftershock Books. It is about social media, big tech, and influencer culture. And like those are things that I deal with a lot, like seeing them and trying to understand them and trying to understand my place in things. And it's just like, fuck, who's controlling who?
It's an existential crisis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kaplan just made an amazing story. Like, I felt though I have never worked in tech, I felt very seen as a person coming up in a world that I just felt was not really made for me. And so I feel like it's an interesting thing to think about. Well, are we individuals in this world that are all just, wanting to be part of the masses, or what makes up the masses? We are actually part of it. And we sometimes are part of the problem and sometimes we're part of the solution. But it's this idea of no one is 100% bad. No one's 100% good. We're all very confused all the time. And I'm not doing a great job of explaining this, but I would say I've never seen the alienation I have felt in the world captured on a comic. And I felt like that, what you do with when you feel like an outsider, you can grow and make things better so more people feel welcomed, or you can completely deviate and say, well, I don't want this, so I'm better than this, because you desire to be seen, but no one's seeing you. And I think it's an interesting thing that Zack Kaplan brought up, I believe, in the interview, where for part of this, you're like, Ben, grow a spine, like do the thing, like be the guy, like show more initiative, do all of these things. And then when you realize, like, Ben, he flips the script on you on who he is, then we're like, oh, well, no, don't do that. Like, we don't want you doing that. So it is a sense of like, there is no winning, because there's just such a gray area that we struggle to find, but we feel like we need to either be virtuous or villainous.
That was a strong ending there.
I know. I think that's
it. Damn.
Like, that was it right there. I have nothing to add to that.
No, I think it's super interesting because I feel like I've gained a lot from social media. Like
same.
It's just like you had to choose how I've used it, and like seeing it, I see how alienating it is, because like I'm very much a person who competes with themselves a lot. So like if I see someone else doing more than I am, my immediate response to be like, well, I can do more. Like I can put more work on myself to like do. It's
Dan,
just like,
please stop doing more.
Yeah,
it's exhausting to watch you.
It is completely unhealthy that I have given myself that control, like the dark passenger in me, that control. Quick question before we go into other themes. I don't think this came up in the interview, because I don't think I missed anything with this. But The Graduate. Have you guys seen The Graduate?
Dustin Hoffman, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So in The Graduate, for anyone who's not seen it at home, this isn't a huge spoiler. It is about someone graduating from college and someone not knowing the place in the world. There is a very, very iconic scene where Dustin Hoffman is sitting at the bottom of the pool.
I was about to say, is it in the pool? Is it the pool?
He's sitting at the bottom of the pool with the scuba gear on. He has no idea where he's going. The character in this book is named Ben, as Dustin Hoffman's character is also named Ben in The Graduate. There is a pool scene where he is sitting above the water looking at the reflection, as he does in the film. I'm not sure if he is a fan of The Graduate, which is one of my favorite films, but I'm sitting here like, oh. So in The Graduate, at his graduation party, an older gentleman comes up to him and he goes, "Son, the future is in plastics." Literally what this book is about. the future is in plastics. And that is stuff. I'm a huge graduate. I will talk with a graduate for hours. But when you kept saying Ben, I was like, wait. It all clicked. I was like, oh, maybe there's like that pool thing is an allusion to the graduate. But then I was like, wait, Ben is literally his name.
Did anyone else was anyone else afraid of great white sharks in pools when they were a kid? Because I was 100%.
Because of Jaws?
Yeah.
No, I was in swim team and
I love to swim. I love pools. I had no issue being in lakes, but like for some reason in pools, I just was like, if I look under the water, there's gonna be a fucking shark.
Nah, that wasn't me,
No.
but I appreciate you
Well,
disclosing that.
Cool. Please
Just
edit
you.
this out.
No, everyone needs to know.
No, I'm not.
No,
There's
because
going to
I
be a
know
shark
people-
fin going across the screen.
I know there are people who have that fear.
I do. But like I also wanted to be a marine biologist, so I'm
Me
like,
too.
I'm on swim team,
Every kid
and I want to
did.
swim with the sharks. Like,
Every kid wanted to be a marine biologist.
my uncle actually became a marine biologist. It didn't do.
I feel like that's what horse girls evolve into. It's just marine.
It's a horse girl, but you live by the ocean.
It's a seahorse girl.
Anyway,
Oh, I had to cry once.
Horse girls.
all right, horse girls mindset.
A horse girl's mindset. What? So, Nikki, you mentioned something called behavioral economics.
Yes.
In the terms of control. For me, I think control was the biggest thing about this book. Like, who controls what? What can you explain your relationship with? First off, you're gonna have to explain what behavioral economics is.
So, behavioral economics is I would say, it's a nice way of saying understanding the consumer and how to market to them effectively. But behavioral economics is about the things and people's environments that shift their behavior. I cannot remember the name of the person who won a Nobel Prize on it in the last few years, but when I was working on a PhD, I took consumer economics and behavioral economics courses, and it was something that was fascinating to me about how our culture and the people around us really influence our behavior. But what it comes down to is learning about things like marketing end caps. So before tech, before all of that, it's like, how does somebody design a marketing end cap to make you the best version of yourself because they want to sell a product? This really became real for me when I was working in nutrition and dietetics, where it turned into, how do you use the science of behavioral economics to make you the best version of yourself? Because it's all about who's that person you want to be. And in the nutrition and dietetics industry, unfortunately, thank you. Okay, Richard Thaler, thank you so much, Adair. She just like sent that message. I'm keeping that in there. But in the nutrition industry for so long, it was like, lose weight. Okay, well, how does behavioral economics work into that? What are these tiny little changes we can make so it's easier for the consumer to behave in a way that makes them the best version of themselves? And that was something that really stuck with me. It's just like, what are these things in our everyday life that we can do to make us the best version of ourselves? And now today, we're very much glued to our technology. And it brought me back to the entire thing about like marketing. It's all about marketing, and marketing is all about psychology and what is going to influence somebody to purchase something and to do something. And that behavior and capitalism like mixed together. It's like, what do you want? Like, how are you going to give us your money? And that's a big thing in here. You have a character who's like, I just want things to be good. But then you have other characters who are like, yeah, payday, money. All of that wrapped up was something that I really loved about mindset, even though my experience with it was not related to tech. It was about this sort of old school, not technology related thing. However, you also have back in the day, I don't know how long ago it was, credit cards. Credit cards always had your information about what you were buying and would market to you So you would buy a product that would help your life. So it all comes down to like this basic concept of marketing. But what they've managed to do with this is make it very real for people who are always checking their phones. And that's what got me. Like mentally, I knew about this idea of mind control in terms of consumerism. But then even I'm like checking social media all the time. I'm like, no, I'm so above the influence of, am I? Wait, am I above the influence of what my phone is doing? So
Yeah.
that was a big thing that hit me.
Even at Niage. Dan got it.
Even
at Niage.
It's a Simpsons episode. That backwards is join the Navy.
I'm
join the Navy. I hate that I did that. But no, Nikki,
I don't hate that you did it. It's just whether or not it ends up on the screen.
Oh man.
No, even that Niage has to make it in.
It's gonna have to make it in. Like me grabbing like my drink is like, fuck, I gotta edit that in.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good edit in. I love editing stuff in. It's great.
So all perspectives that I didn't have outside of my own, because like this, I related so much to like seeing these people, knowing these people from the industries and things like that is interesting to see it outside of that. I did want to talk about the art's use of splintering.
The rat that trained the Ninja Turtles in the sewer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait. Yeah. Splinter. Master
good.
Splinter.
I'm glad we're going there.
Were you gonna like to correct me?
No, I was thinking, so
I was just gonna let it go there.
Two things that mess up with Ninja Turtles is I always say Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles instead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Splinter and Shredder.
Yeah. That's a common
Splinter's
issue.
good guy. Shredder's
a bad guy. And
Splinter's
who's Gargamel? That's the Smurfs. That's
Smurfs. That's a man. He's a human.
And sharks in the pool. Continue, Dan.
Sorry, I was thinking about Austin Powers. So even behind the sharks with the friggin' laser beam strapped to their heads. So the mindset cover behind you, all the covers have some sort of level of like splinter. There's like this very specific effect that Pearson uses through the series of the app against you. Like there's I think issue 4, the character who's on the cover is the one who gets killed, isn't it? It's
Josiah?
Yeah, no, Josiah gets killed in the end. There's one who gets killed before when they go to the rich man's house.
Oh shit. What is the
and they cover it up with the mindset.
Yeah, what's the name though?
I'll pull it up and
Nikki, just put the name right.
I'm gonna the name
here.
is right
there.
Got it. And the cover right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he gets shot in the head. So it's like
it's almost like
looks almost like he's
he's JFK, but it's
just I really hate that I just did that.
We all just did it together.
I know. I think it's just our natural inclination, but I'm also just like, oh God. Ugh. Continue, Dan.
Kombucha is delicious. I'm gonna get over this.
The even the last cover, it's like the full reveal because it's someone looking at their phone and the phone is projecting what they want, but behind them is this person who's really controlling the thing. Are they the same person though? Pearson is unfucking believable because sometimes art may not be as thematic as some of the writing can be, but this is like everyone is firing at all cylinders the entire series. It is so in beautiful sync.
No one phoned it in.
Beautiful. That was really good.
No one phoned it?
That was really
I'm
good.
really like on my
You're owning it.
That was really good.
I'm saying lots of shit that's gonna definitely not get edited out.
No, this is all staying.
Yeah, it's the whole. I really loved this book, and I
I can state that for a fact Dan does love this book because our Slack channel where we are talking about this book is Dan just praising this book. Like this, the whole day has just been talking about this book. So I can say that Dan loves this book.
So I've loved Vault since the plot and all those things, but like, there was a lot of the books haven't hit the way some of the other ones have. Like reading this felt like reading the plot or Savage Shores for the first time, where it was like, this is why Vault is something special to me. Like Vault didn't do this story, but they're giving this story a platform. They're paying these people to tell their story, and they're editing it. They're doing all of that stuff. Saying a publisher is capable for the story, that's not it. But like this was their best book last year. I'll say that.
Agreed.
But this is what I come to Vault for. There's a lot of other books that I feel like could go to other publishers, and it doesn't make a difference, but this feels like what put Vault on the map and will continue to put them on the map when they take chances on stories like this, where it's just like, this is what science fiction, this is what fantasy, this is what horror can be in this format.
And if you look at their new story lineups, that's what we're seeing consistently. I'm very excited for Godfell. I'm very excited for The Nasty.
Yeah, I think those two are very much that. This is what it can be, and I hope this is what it continues to be.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something that absolutely blows my mind, and I'm all there for it. And I remember reading the first issue and just being like, don't think I'm ready for this. And that's why I love it so much, because it made me think a little bit too hard about my own decisions and what is influencing me and how do I want to influence others, if I do at all. But like, let's be real, when you have a podcast and you have social media and you have all of that, you're like, what are we actually doing here? I didn't need the existential crisis, but hey, here we are. And now we have a podcast.
I was they're in the final issue when they burn the building down. We burn the place to the ground. In issue 3, he talks about how he wants to tear down the industry. That all just clicked in my head, and he was like, oh, he became the thing and he destroyed the thing.
We just keep learning, guys. That's the sign of a comic. If you just keep figuring random Easter eggs out.
I think it's what good art does, Nikki. What you were saying makes you question things. That's all I had. What were you going to say?
Oh, I want to ask what you actually think happened to the characters at the end based on the very last shot. And we can edit this part out, but I really would like y'all to know, did he really stop using the loop? Did he no longer have the tech, or did he keep using it?
I think he kept using it.
Or was he free?
So, for me, symbolically, sunglasses and glasses mean you can't see the real person. Going back to The Graduate, in the scene where he takes Mrs. Robinson's daughter to the strip club for their first date, he has sunglasses on inside, and you don't get to see the real him. And that's something that's always stuck with me in all media, is watching people with sunglasses and they take them on or off, because it shields you from seeing to the eyes, which are the portal to yourself, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he kept using it because there you go. I actually think he might, because the last question is, does it help you or control you? What does mindset really do? What does mindset really do? He has the sunglasses off and he's like looking at the camera, quote unquote. That really just depends on who you think is in control. Like, it's the eyes, because in the next panel, the Pearson's doing some fucking incredible like spirals coming out of the eyes and stuff. So like, maybe he's keep using it, but it is what it is to him.
So guys, what are y'all looking forward to from Vault? Like, what else? Since mindset really killing it.
Can you ask that again? Hold on one second.
No.
Fucking bangs.
Your bangs are, you're just like, hold on, I gotta fix this.
Now ask the question.
Oh, sorry. You want me to ask it now?
Yeah, I do.
So Mindset really sort of set an example of what Vault truly does well. What else are you looking forward to from Vault in the future?
The Nasty, but that got pushed back till
April.
So you have to wait longer now.
But the final order cutoff is March 5th or 6th? 6th?
6th.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you tell your story you want it. It is awesome. If you like horror, it's really worth picking up. They also just posted a thread about the Nasty's mask and how it's based around Jason.
Yeah.
Who rocks.
Slash
Big Jason
Mondays.
guy.
I'm also looking forward to the Nasty. I'm looking forward to Godfell. I'm looking forward to Queen of Swords. These are the things I am looking forward to. But Godfell, I'm excited that it's out soon. When's it out, Nikki?
It by the time this is released.
Yeah. It's already out.
I'm
already reading
out.
it, guys.
It's the 22nd of February. Is that when it's out?
I'm excited for that. I want to see what's gonna happen. I'm really, really excited for the Nasty. I didn't expect to be excited for it in the way that I am. But it's a ways off, but I'm really excited for Queen of Swords too. So I didn't choose one. Sorry guys, this is my thing. I'm very non-committal. I like a lot of things. But
ethically non-monogamous with her comic choices.
That's true.
Fine.
And ethically very monogamous in my relationships.
There you go. And that's fine.
No judgment.
No judgment. I have to say, quests aside, the trade is coming out. And the trade for Mindset is also coming out, but like we've been talking about that for a while. But I'm very excited about Quests Aside. That's a trade I'm getting for multiple people. Like,
yeah, same. It's going to be a really fun way to introduce. I think it's going to be one that people who aren't necessarily that into comics are going to really like.
mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think is special too, is to be able to be like, this is something that you are going to think is funny, even if you've not read another comic.
I think I will say that everything we're looking forward to when you look at the Nasty, Godfell, Queen of Swords, Mindset, Trade, we've already been talking about it, and Quests Aside, look at all of those genres. Those are all by Vault, and those are all some examples of like
not a one of them is similar.
Like very, very different things, but Vault is getting right. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah. I do too.
No mind control was used in the making of this episode.
Sure.
I promise.
I feel like passive aggressive energy to get me here on time is kind of mind control. Dan.
What passive aggressive energy was used?
I have no passive aggressive energy. I only have aggressive energy.
You're aggressive as fuck.
You're just very aggressive. You're
very
like a
aggressive.
cat where it's just like, I am going to vomit on you if I do not like this.
Dan vomiting on people? What?
I'm very
it's better than licking his whole asshole.
That's not my kink.
What is your kink?
We know what your kink is. We lick your whole asshole.
Wrong show. Wrong show.
All right, guys.
All right.
Was fun.
This was a lot of fun. This was a great episode. We learned about our fears.
It's been a night.
It's been a night. I'm gonna have nightmares, an existential crisis, and kombucha and I don't really agree.
Does it make your stomach feel good?
No, not really.
Would you feel better if I came over there and rubbed your tummy?
No.
Yeah,
we're done.
The things are always giving like lesbian art dealers.
What nonsense? There's no nonsense here.
So Nikki's fucking cursed. I'm a poet. Did you not know this? Oh, sorry. I'm a poet. Did you not know it?
Yeah.
No. I'm. Why, Dan? Why?
I'm just telling you. I was saying if they were gonna fuck a monster, I'm saying those are the options in Iowa.